So according to my camera right now, this image is well exposed and I was hella confused. But I think I get what's happening. The camera has enough information that's getting into it that it can see from where I'm sitting. So right now it's saying overexposed by one stop, but I can barely see me. And this introduces a concept that I would like to talk about. So right now I've turned on my key light, which has brought me on. Now you can see me. And the concept I want to talk about in terms of lighting is your ambient light and the impact of your key light. So mostly when lighting, you have two things that you're thinking about. It's what's the story you're trying to tell and what do you want people to see, what should be visually there, and what is appealing, what does the camera sensor do. So the camera, the important thing is when you get to color grading, you want to have as much information that you can provide in order to avoid noise, but also just to create the mood and atmosphere of the shot that you're going for. So right now my key light is on at 60%. It's a 150 daylight. One of the major challenges that I have at this point is, according to the information from the camera that I'm seeing, is the window behind me is overexposed, or it's getting there. The highlights, like I don't think they're clipped, but it's getting there. And one of the things that happens is when you're shooting daylight interior, one of the main things that you want to think about is how can you expose your image so that it almost goes above what's outside. That way people are not confused. I close my windows because the view behind there is not really great. But the main thing with that is that's how you want to play with it. So you want almost your inside to be higher than outside, because that's in general how we perceive it when we are just in our normal day-to-day life. So the main concepts that we're going to touch on today is when lighting, especially, I think one of the challenges we have, I think with daylight, with stuff like that, it's easier to light. But one of the challenges most of us have is lighting night scenes and not getting noise in the image. One of the main key things you want when you're lighting for your night scenes is to always think about your ambient lighting. So as you saw in the beginning, the camera was saying it has enough information that it needs to fill in the shadows. And then it just became about making sure we have a key light and then you can see me. Whilst also you can actually turn it off and create a silhouette shot if that's something that you're going for. With silhouette, the trick is the light has to be behind the subject, and that way you are almost in shadow, and that's the trick. For me, I've always said my challenge with silhouette shots is how do you not show the source of the light? I guess if you have enough resources with the spotlight, you can do that and then you can properly shape it. The other thing that I think you should take out of this video, it's the importance of shaping your light. So right now I have a light that's hitting a diffusion and that's coming on to me. But also one of the challenges that I have is I live in my house, there's white walls. So the light is bouncing and I'm not really shaping it to just hit me, which would have been great, especially with the mood and atmosphere that we were going for. So the things that then you can do in instances like that where you have this, then you'd want to have your negative fill or your negative where you can then direct where the light is going. I don't really have resources to do that, but we can attempt to see if I can do something. So right now I'm sort of controlling the light and I'll take a picture of the setup that I have. I mean, it's not the most ideal of setups, but what that does is it helps us shape the light. It helps us make sure the light goes where it's wanted, especially when you're creating a moody scene or a scene that you just want to highlight certain information. Maybe you just want the characters, you want everything else to be dark. Then it becomes more of shaping your light and using the tools and resources that you have. I think that's what makes an image beautiful. That's what makes image cinematic. That's what makes the difference between being a professional and just being a hobbyist. I think being a professional, you have access to professional tools, you have access to more help, you have more people that you can work with in terms of grips. On a film set, grips are really there to shape light, but they need you to know what you need that light to do. So you need to know, okay, what are we trying to do with this light? Where do we want it? And I think when you're more professional, you also have more access to better equipment and stuff like that, where you can really shape light and make sure light just goes where you want it. I think one of the things that is not spoken a lot about in cinematography is just, what the light does. I think a lot of times, when we speak about Dune, a lot of us are just like, it's so beautiful. And it's, in a way, the main things we focus on is what we are looking at, which is the world, the composition of the shots, the performances. But we barely consciously say, look at what the light is doing. I think in Dune, they use a lot of harsh light, like a lot of hard light. And that is a challenge and probably one of the most difficult things you can do. But if you shape harsh light and you do what it does, when you look at the sun, if you just look at people walking on a normal day, what the sun does to a person, that is beautiful. But then an argument can be made to say, but the sun is soft light. But who's arguing? So right now in the next setup, I'm gonna try to see if I can key myself without the diffusion and just see what we get. Like it's probably not going to look good, but we'll never know unless we try. So if I was just to keep it as is, I feel like it's too much, it's doing too much, and it's hitting me too strong. But I think when you have a situation like this, there's a lot of things that you can do, especially if you're trying to play with harsh light. One is you can turn down your aperture and see what that does for you. So if we were to go to, let's say, f5.6, you have this sort of look coming out of the camera, and this is harsh light. You can see over here on my forehead, it looks harsh, and it's something that you can go for. This is not diffuse lighting. But for me, I think in instances like this, another thing that I might consider doing is reducing the intensity and then making sure the light is just going where I want it to go. So at this point, we are back to f2.8, which I was filming on, and I've reduced the light to 30%. This just helps you with that, like you get the impact that you're going for, but without overexposing your image. And right now, when I look at the camera, it's saying we are over by 2 stops, which is fine. I can lower it in post, I think what you don't want to do is go super crazy to where your image is destroyed. But these are things that you can think about in terms of using harsh light. Like, you don't necessarily always have to diffuse your light if it's not a look that you're going for. This can be a storytelling tool. Lighting is, once again, just a storytelling tool that we all use and we play with to do certain things that you want. For me, I like the soft look because I think it just creates a more balanced image and it's pleasing to look at. But in Dune, like I said, they use a lot of harsh light. We'll finish this video on a proper light because right now the light is literally just hitting my face and it's hard to look up. At the end of the day, it's all about preference and what you want for your own look. You and the director have to decide what type of look you're going for in terms of the imagery and in terms of the feeling you want people to feel. But the main things that you always want to be thinking about is, what's the story, what are we doing, and always think about post. We say fix it in post, but prepare it for people in post, especially your colorist. They'll thank you if there's enough information to play with once they're fixing the colors and things that need to be sorted. And part of that is making sure that the camera sensor has enough juice, there's enough light going through the camera for them to be able to pick up. This is something that I observed. I was like, oh, this is interesting. Before I started this, I was about to record a different video, and then my camera was like, yo, well, exposed. And I was like, am I? So if you found value in this video, please hit that subscribe button. I don't know how this counts as I'm well exposed. I feel like I can't even see myself. I think if I wanted that image to work the way it did, I think something like this, like I'm at the lowest wattage that this light will go, and then that just allows you to see. And I think in post you can be able to lower it so that people can actually see the person who's talking, but you can also just make it darker if that's your vibe. Or this is something that you can do, just play with your aperture and see what's up. Okay, this is good.